Hello and welcome to the Coaching Crowd podcast with me, Zoe Hawkins, and my friend and co-host Jo Wheatley.
Hi, everybody. Good to be here with you this week. This week, we are musing over how to train as a coach when you've got a full-time job. And the reason that we're talking about this is the majority of people that come and train as coaches with us on our accredited coaching training programs do have full-time jobs. And when they have their initial phone call exploring, which level program, which cohort, they invariably will bring up, do other people do this that have full-time jobs? How do they do it? So we thought we'd create this episode for you today. So if you're in that situation, you're working full-time, you've got other stuff going on in your life and you're wondering, how on earth is it even possible for me to train as a coach? We plan to answer that question for you today.
Yeah, and as you alluded to there, Jo, it's not often just a full-time job, is it? It's often caring responsibilities. It might be young children, elderly parents, hobbies, going to the gym, those sorts of things. And life is full for many people. And we don't shy away from the fact that undertaking a coaching qualification, it is a lot of work. And when we have these calls with people, we make that clear, this is the sort of time commitment that you're looking for. And I think if we start with the beginning, and the most important part, I think, is that often this is the part of their week that our learners most look forward to. So, yes, there's a full-time job, and yes, there's lots of other responsibilities. But when they're looking ahead to what's in their diary for that particular week, and they see they have a coaching training session, particularly on a live facilitated training, it's the bubble that they get to step into, be wholly themselves, indulge in their learning and their passion, and they're connected with other people with similar sort of values and ethics. And I think we make time for the things that we enjoy. And it can often feel like, well, how do you make time when, everything is so busy? But it's amazing that what we see from our learners in terms of the way they shift their priorities in order to fill their diary with the things that most excite them.
I think I would start with some really practical points, which are we offer basically pretty much any format that you need. So if you cannot possibly make a commitment to be on live training sessions, it's just not possible for you. You can do our level 3 coaching program. It's self-guided, and the super coaching supervision part, you get a whole calendar of sessions that you can drop into, and you only need to attend to. So simple, perfectly made for you if that's your situation right now. If you're somebody that craves community and connection and you learn through conversations with other people and practicing and getting feedback, we have got evening formats, whole day, like school hour formats, morning formats. We have got a new weekend format that we are testing out. I think I said evening formats, probably twice because it's extremely popular. And they run generally March, they start, and also September. So we've got pretty much any format. And if we don't have a format that suits you, come and let us know, and we will see if we can build it into, the following calendar year. And we also know that because our level 5 and level 7 coaching programs, which are the levels where you come together and you work through it as a cohort, are either 20 or 24 lessons. So 20 2.5 hour lessons if you do level 5, 24 if you do the level 7. That is a big commitment, and you're probably going to find that at 1 or 2 sessions you're not going to be able to make, maybe up to 4. We already have a section in the learning platform that contains the dates and the times and the Zoom links for when other future cohorts are doing those lessons. So if you can't make it, you can very easily know and find out how to catch up with that. And there's no marks against your name. It's just, that's fine. We accept that that is part of the process. So from a practical perspective, in terms of time, I think we try and design it around you and your needs. And from a payment perspective, you can pay in full if you're somebody that is able to and also likes to just have it done, no more admin around that. But we also have payment plan option, so you can break it into easy chunks.
Yeah, so some great practical tips there, Jo. I think also it's important to think about what will suit you and the schedule that you have, and this is for, well, I mean, it's basically for anything you do in life, particularly around coaching training. You need to be able to maintain your motivation, your engagement, and your enthusiasm. So trying to wedge something in where it's not going to fit or you're going to come up with tension is probably not a strategy to take. So looking at your diary, your life, and thinking about where do I have my most energy? So, as Joe said, might be a morning session or of an evening. Where do I think I want to spend the time? And this is where many people come to negotiate with their employers around maybe having time off for a daytime session rather than wedging it into an evening where they've already had a full day at work. Or there will be those people who know that I want this to be wholly for myself, and I'll only be able to wholly engage in this program and maintain my motivation if it's on my terms and on my time. And we find a lot of those learners opt for the evening sessions because they know that they're totally free from work commitments, work is done for the day, and they're able to step into their learning world as themselves, so not committed to their organization. And those are the learners who typically want to become an independent coach, have an exit strategy, perhaps from their employed role. So energy and what are you doing it for? Like, what's your reason for signing up can be good goalposts, I suppose, to put in the ground to think about what's going to suit me best and help me to maintain my motivation and engagement through the program.
Yeah, and for context, consistently during the course of our business, we have had about 50-50 split between people that are self-funding and people whose organizations support them. And we've done a previous episode on how to build a business case to get support from your employer. And really that is about linking what you're going to get from the program into the value that you can add into your organization. And we see more and more organizations actually supporting a number of people to go through our training because they are looking to develop the culture in their organization and upskill their leaders and managers to be able to have meaningful, practical conversations in an ethical way. And so whilst the individual has some time away from the business, not only do they, as you said earlier, Zoe, see that the person is getting to do something that's really meaningful, fulfilling for them, leaning into their strengths around intuition and connection and empowerment and so on, empathy, but also they see them be able to bring that back into their organization. Maybe they'll run some workshops with the coaching hours that they need to undertake. They commit to support people within the organization and offer coaching internally, which has a huge value. So if you do the level 5, you need to coach 6 people. If you do the level 7, you need to coach 8 people. Well, if an organization was to pay for a coach to coach 6 or 8 people, that will probably cost them a lot more than the cost of sending one person onto the coaching training that also then is able to do that on an ongoing basis. So that's an example of that. And I am somebody that was very fortunate to be able to convince and also be supported by 2 employers to support me with my coaching qualification, because I actually left the employer halfway through and joined another one. And so they both supported me in that way. And I have had employers support me with my CPD throughout my employed roles. And it did genuinely, I stayed longer in most roles. And I also always made sure that I gave back into the organization more than I felt that I had received as part of the gift of being invested in for my CPD.
I think the value is paid back really quickly when it comes to organizations sponsoring, not just in obviously the time that you can dedicate to coaching other people, but in what you learn and how much more effective it can make you in your relationships and in your role. Like, there's a huge ripple effect that comes from coaching training. But practicalities to one side, what else makes it possible for you to train as a coach when you are a busy person, full-time role with other responsibilities? Mindset, I think, does come into this a lot, and how you step into and engage into a coaching training is really important. And I think the mindset I think that I have applied in the past. I remember the biggest thing I probably did post my coaching training, but I did my coaching training. I didn't have any children. Yes, I had a full-time job, but I had no other responsibilities. So, compared to life right now, I'd had oodles of time on my hands. May not feel like that for everybody in that situation, but for me, I had the capacity to do that. When I did my supervision training, which was a similar kind of commitment, I had 3 children under the age of 7, and I was running this business, and and I had, my youngest was 1, so I was still very much not having like full childcare support. So I felt then like, what am I doing? Like, is now the right time? Like, have I really got the time to dedicate to this? Can I do it? And so my mindset was really important, as well as practicalities, like having the support and making sure my husband was available to cover when I had the live sessions. And I found the mindset that I went into the training on was one that this matters to me. Like, everything else matters. Like, yes, my full-time business or my children or my relationship, but this matters to me. And this is important to me, not for somebody else or for my employer, but it was, how do I make this as a priority for me as a whole person? And that really helped me to shift the dial on whether now was or wasn't the right time. And maybe it wasn't the perfect time, but could I make it the right time, or could I make time for it to work? And so sometimes we can be looking for, am I ready? Is now good enough? Do I have capacity? And sometimes that shift between, this matters, like I need this now for me, for whatever reason, can help you to just look at your commitments in a different way.
Yeah, and there are practical things in amongst that. So when you realize that, this is important for me and my future self is going to be grateful for the current me that makes the time for this, is sometimes we can make something feel bigger than it is. So whilst it is a significant investment of time, when we break that down, so when I speak to people that are interested in doing one of our coaching qualifications, I'm just really honest about what is required. So you've got to attend each of the lessons that are 2.5 hours each. And each of those lessons, you need to allow up to 2 hours prep for. Some of them, it's a lot less than that. Some of them, it's slightly more. So we say 2 hours because we believe on average, it won't take 2 hours. But if you allow that, you're not, instead, you'll feel like, oh, that's great. It only took me an hour, or it only took me an hour and a half. You might want to capture some reflections after the live lesson. You might do that during the lesson. So if you were doing a weekly format, for example, you need to be able to have like an evening you can dedicate to it, and time, maybe you do it on that day. So maybe it's, in the morning before work or after work, before you do that, you're doing your prep and you come to the session. So then all of a sudden you're looking at, oh, that's my day a week where I do my coaching training. If you do it in a weekend format or a semi-intensive format, then you have actually got quite a lot of space. You've got to have a decent amount of space in between to be able to do your prep. You do also need to be able to do coaching in triads. So that is, not only do you practice in the live lessons, but you also practice in triads. And that's so you have the opportunity to experience being coached by somebody for a 6-session program, coach someone for a 6-session program, and watch that happen. So you get those different lenses. And that is more time. So that is 3 lots of an hour and a half on a monthly basis. So I think having all of the facts is how you make it happen. So whatever the program is that you want to do, and if you want to train to be a coach and you think we'd be a good fit for you, come and have a conversation with us. Like, book a call. You can do that at igcompany.com/ILM call. And you'll find times when you can have a call with us, and we'll be really honest with you about what is required for the format that you choose, so that you then can look at, what are the pieces that I can move in my life in order to make space for this thing that's important for me. I look back and I was, I had children, and I feel like everything I've achieved at this point in my life, from there, has been related to that decision that I made to prioritize training to be a coach that has laid the foundations for the rest of my life. So, when I look back, I'm I'm so grateful that the people around me supported me to do that, and I supported myself to do it as well.
I often look at how much time I may be spending watching Netflix, or how much time I might be spending mindlessly kind of scrolling on my phone. And the time adds up. And I'm not saying it's always conveniently located around the same time that we have ILM training, but I was listening to a podcast the other day that was talking about, if you can find time to watch Netflix, you can find time to learn, because you can just sort of switch your medium. And it may be that you don't want to, which is great, and it may be that that's your recharging time. But I suppose the thing is that, as you said, Joe, it can feel bigger when you're first starting out before you've made the decision. All the worries about whether you will be able to commit to it are there. But once you've committed to it, it then becomes a reality. And instead, you're looking at how do you shift things around to make it happen because you've made the commitment. And one of the practicalities you haven't mentioned, Joe, is that you can learn through the app. So if you're a dog walker or you drive long journeys, you don't have to be wedged to your desk to do the prep. You take it out on your dog walk with you and you listen to it as you go, or however you need to absorb the learning, it's there for you in a flexible way. So it may not be the perfect way you want to learn as a coach. You may be thinking, well, unless I can clear 2 days a week to fully engage in this and have a clear diary, that's how I want to do it. Well, that may not be realistic. So what's a less than perfect way that you can still have a brilliant experience is to be able to think about where can you be flexible with yourself around how you are able to learn or want to learn, or what are you willing to compromise and what aren't you willing to compromise. So rather than waiting for the right time, is to look at the time that you have got right now and think about, well, how could I make it work? You start asking yourself a different question. Is it the right time? Is quite a limiting question. How could I make this work? It's quite an expansive question. It gives you more possibilities. And I think that's one of the questions that can be really helpful when you're thinking about making this decision.
Yeah, and I think there's also some other things to bear in mind, which are it might be that on, let's say you're doing it of an evening or a weekend, the other people in your life bring you lunch or bring you dinner on those days. So it's what are the benefits of training to be a coach when you're working full time? It's one evening a week or one day a week. I don't need to do the cooking, somebody else does that for me. And I don't think you need to sacrifice Netflix or, wherever else you consume content that sort of, relaxes you, because you probably find that after you've been on one of the training sessions, actually, whilst most people come away feeling energized because they feel, or they at least feel stimulated, and most people then would probably find it difficult to go straight to sleep or on to the next thing. So you probably would find yourself also still watching something on Netflix, but you will find that you've also then invested time in your own development, doing a program. So actually, in terms of fulfillment, you're like, wow, I did that and I did that. So I didn't, how we all get sucked in, to doing something. And I think for me, another thing is that, I try and support the other people, close to me in my life to do the things that are important to them. It can also be really easy to forget within that actually there are things that are important to me. And so I've tried to use that, whereas everybody in my family, my kids and my husband are all busy getting fit, doing sports in the gym. And I'm like, rather than being frustrated that I'm having to be here and everywhere doing those things, I'm going to do that for myself as well. And so it's not my favorite thing in the world to do, but I always feel better when I have done it. And so I've used that as motivation to do it. And, so you might have children that are about coming up to GCSE, years, they're busy studying. Well, maybe there's some kind of mirroring that you can do. And actually that's helpful for them because they see other people in the house also studying hard for things that are important to them. So, I mean, everybody's life is different. And, if you're in a position where you're fortunate and able to make the decisions for yourself, I think the most important thing is that you consider, what would I need in order to make this a possibility for me if it's something that's important for you? And what information do I need? What conversations do I need to have? And how can I have those conversations in a way that is most likely to lead to the outcome that I want? And we can say, after many years of training coaches and also having been working full-time ourselves whilst doing coaching training, it absolutely is possible, and it absolutely is highly likely to be the most rewarding thing that you'll ever have done in your life. And you might find that you've never needed it more than you need it right now.
Yeah, absolutely, Jo. So if you are in that place and you would love to find out more, come and do our quiz at mycoachingcourse.com, which is going to help you to work out which coaching qualification is right for you. And of course, you could explore our website at igcompany.com, where we list all of our courses, and it's there you can also book a call.